This is my Durston X-mid Pro 1. It uses trekking poles to set up, but sometimes I wish it was freestanding, and now it is. Introducing the Durston X-mid Pro Exoskeleton Carbon Fiber 5-pole tri-connector freestanding. It's actually just a pole set that I built in my basement, and it sets this tent up without the use of trekking poles. That's really how it works. I'm going to show you how I set it up and test it out for the first time. Plus, if you stick around, I'm going to show you how to build your own. My custom-made Durston Exoskeleton Mid Pro 1. It's designed of carbon fiber poles and connectors that I 3D printed myself. And don't worry, it doesn't require any modifications to the actual tent in order to work. Let's go over the details. So it is a 5-pole system that you add to your Durston X-mid Pro 1. This weighs about 1 pound, this weighs 9.3 ounces, so your total combo for a freestanding DCF Durston X-mid Pro 1 is 1 pound, 9.3 ounces. Let's set it up. This is actually my first time setting it up on grass properly. I only built it in the shop to get all the geometry right, so let's see how it goes. So next up, I'm actually going to build all the poles. It's a 5-pole system. I've got them organized in little bags because I haven't actually got to the point where I put the bungee cord through them. I wanted to test it first. Then I'll use the 3D printed connectors. There's 2 of them, tripoles, to connect them all together. And lastly, I'm going to put on the guy line adapters that I put on the end of each of the poles. You want to know why I want a freestanding tent? The reality is I haven't owned a freestanding tent. I don't even know if I ever have, to be honest. Maybe when I was a kid with my dad we had a freestanding tent, but I don't ever remember owning one. All the tents I have right now, all set up with either 1 pole and some tent stakes, or trekking poles and tent stakes. None of them are considered freestanding. But there is a reason, and that is because this summer, actually about a month ago, I came back from a trip in the subarctic in northern Quebec and Labrador. We were above tree line, but not far enough that there was a lot of rock. So it was like pebbles everywhere. It was extremely hard to set up the tents everywhere that we went. And my friend Ryan actually had a semi-freestanding tent, which made it a little bit easier. The Durston tent was very hard. Now, usually when I do my Arctic trips, like the one I did in Tuktoyaknogait or in Baffin Island, there's lots of big rocks around and all kinds of things to latch onto in order to set it up. In this case, there was almost none, and it rained for 7 days, and it became such a pain in my butt that I came back and I made some notes on my gear list, and I said, Steve, you need to get a freestanding tent for next year, just in case the terrain is the same. So I started to build one, and that is why I want a freestanding tent. Oh, but you're also probably wondering why I want specifically the X-mid. Well, the X-mid for me is quite large in size. The Pro 1, it is very good space to weight ratio, or weight to space ratio. I did bring to Baffin Island my Z-Packs tent. This was the old Solplex. I probably bought it 8 or 9 years ago or something like that. And unfortunately it was just a little bit too tight with all my Arctic gear. This one is just a little bit more room, especially when I've got all my pack raft and wet gear and stuff like that. So for the space to weight ratio, it's quite good. And that's why I want a tent like this, freestanding. Hence I built it myself. After we've got the frame kind of set up, we're going to go ahead and put them inside the guy line retainers. So next up, we have to clip out the 2 3D printed pieces that hold where the trekking pole would typically go. And this is on both sides. So we'll do the first one, slide it up and do the second one. We've got one on the other side. All right, let's take a look at how she looks. Nice. How's that? That's pretty tight. I do agree that some optimization may be needed. Maybe what would be a good test is to put a couple of stakes out just to see what it looks like once it's completely pinned. Jeez, that was tough. And the two sides. This is all part of the testing process. We are removing the 4 stakes. I'm going to see. Can't just double duty. Right here. Yeah. That looks pretty good. Let's remove this guy line here. We can add that if we need to later. We did have to do quite a few adjustments to get it right, but the reality is that these poles just need to be pulled out a little bit, and so I've just staked them down. We're gonna go in and test it out a little bit, see how strong it is, but it's much more sturdy than if we just used the trekking poles alone, that's for sure. As I had previously mentioned, this is a 5-pole connector set. I used carbon fiber tent poles from Quest Outfitters to build this system. And there is 2 short poles, which are the poles closest to the door, and 2 long poles, which are the poles opposite side to the door. Then at each area where the trekking pole would go up, on the outside there's a small tie-out. And I built small hooks that would connect to the carbon fiber pole system. The connectors themselves, including the hooks, are 3D printed. And they took about 5 or 6 different revisions to get right. It's a little bit hard to describe, but it is a compound angle that comes off the top in order to get the proper arc. At the end of each pole set on the 4 corners is a 3D printed piece with a groove in it that holds the guy line. And this is what you would typically put your tent stake through, but instead you put it in that groove and you can tension it to get the fit and finish correct. I don't think it's going to be as simple as just giving you the dimensions of each of the poles, although I will. I think this is going to be more of a starting point, which you can build it and then trim as you see fit, because I don't know if every single tent is exactly the same or what the tolerances are or whatever exact kind of pole you use. So the 2 short poles are 60.5 inches long. The 2 long poles are 69.25 inches long. And the middle pole right here is 56.75 inches long. You can see the 3D printed connectors. They hold all 3 poles at the top of the 2 apexes. Those, I think the best way to do it is to draw it out on a piece of paper in a CAD program and figure out the angles from there. The 3D printed components at the end of the tent poles that have the guy line groove in it, I think anything would work. As a matter of fact, I think mine are probably too big and over-designed. You can come up with something better. I would like to see what it sets up like on the inside. Seems to be pretty good, to be honest. Look at it. The floor is nicely tightened. Oh yeah. There's like a little tiny airplane going over us right now. The floor is actually well tensioned. I wasn't sure if that was going to be the case because usually the trekking pole fits right here and there's a little connection piece that goes to the trekking pole. But it looks like it wouldn't be really required here. Other than being about 1,000 degrees Celsius in here, it's pretty good. me show you. Pretty good setup, I gotta admit. Pretty sure I gave you enough information to build your own set. You can ask some questions in the comments if you need clarification. But there's one thing that I won't do. I won't build and sell you a set because Dan is coming out with the freestanding version and I'm probably gonna buy it. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one.